All right, welcome back to the double swing. It's been a little while since we did one of these. The last time we did was for Cluj Napoca. There was a gap in the scene, a space left vacant for someone to fill, and basically only tier 2 events did, which we have yet to sync to, Yumi. I find that interesting. Like, I do a lot of content, a lot of shows, a lot of things about very low level CS, but we don't take those opportunities on this show. I think we're just, yeah, we know that there's not enough value for us to add when it comes to the real deep dives. Like, when we're talking tier 3 teams, like, what are we gonna say? What are we really gonna say?
Yeah, we're not gonna try and talk about as many teams as possible at those lands. We'd probably pick our favorites and just hope that they succeed in the way that we expect them to, because we're looking at trajectories, we're looking at steady growth typically, and then there's the odd anomaly that happens, and then we all look a little stupid. So that's life.
We'd have a 15-minute show, basically like, I like this team. And you'd be like, and I like this one. And we'd all go home, which wouldn't be very thrilling. But anyway, we are finally back.
They might make the major.
No, they won't. We're doing Pro League Stage 2. As soon as you get excited for a team to make the major, they don't. I found that out the hard way at the last one. I'm just like, all right, screw it. Not going to care anymore until they're actually in Stage 1. Shout out 9. They were actually kind of fun until it all went wrong. But yes, joining us this week to do a Pro League Stage 2 preview is AN1MO, also known as Sam, also known as that guy on Overtime on Inferno that says they're shit in a British accent, which I've realised is both of them, but still we can pretend that we know the difference between all the different various regional delicacies of voice. Let's put it that way. We're going to be talking about that in a second, but first let's quickly recap what happened last week with Cluj Napoca. I say last week, about 3 weeks ago. Cluj Napoca was a hate crime, I think is the best way to put it. I got 1 point, Blair also got 1 point, and Yumi, the fascist pig he is, hogged all the points for himself and scored 6 by picking Vitality, Parivision, and Aurora to all score. We got MOUZ and Mongolz right respectively, me and Blair. But aside from that, yeah, pretty awful, pretty abominable. And now my lead has disappeared as Yumi and I are both on 13 with the viewers / guests, although they're just guests at this point, down on 10. Let's do it.
Listen, it's tough to be at the top. What can I say?
Tied at the top.
I'm going to score one for the guests this week, I feel. But 1 point, just to be clear.
Just 1 point.
I'm not getting the guests above you. Just one single point is all I'm aiming for.
Yeah, that's going to be difficult, I think. I don't know. We'll see. We'll find out. We haven't actually checked with you. We said you had to pick your position in the snake draft. Then we never asked you to actually pick it and lock it in. So where do you want to go? First, second, or third?
I'm thinking, because I'm a little stupid and I'm still a little confused. I'm going to go second.
Second.
Second
right.
Feels safe.
That means I'm going first, if I'm recalling correctly, Yumi, because you went first last time and took Vitality, right?
Yeah, I must have. Yeah, I must have done that.
I don't think Vitality would have made it to third.
No, probably not. No.
Yeah, not even the biggest copers would have managed to do that. So yeah, let's just get straight into it. Pro League Stage 2. Now we do have one team that's currently undecided. I've put 3D Max in that slot just because fuck Liquid, am I right? But technically that is yet to be decided. Everything else though has been decided from Stage 1. These are the teams with one exception. I'm gonna get straight into it. My pick, I put them in the headline, the title. I do think this is a pretty big event for them, a pretty important event, especially given the fact the field is wide open. Give me Spirit. Team Spirit are a team that everyone keeps talking about in a lot of strange ways, I find. You know, for a long time, we all had to pretend that the only thing that could potentially be wrong with them was that their IGL was a mental invalid, and that was the only reason they couldn't win any games. Like, for some reason, that was the only narrative that existed. Then they replaced him with a boy. That was it. He's just friends with Donk, and it still hasn't gone very well. They've yet to make a grand final. They've yet to win anything. It's not been spectacular, but the firepower remains the key issue. They are stacked to the gills. We often talk about it like it's Donk carrying just 4 players. No, not really. It's Donk and Shiro, and also Tanir. Whilst he doesn't get the opportunities to shine in the same way he did on Heroic, he is still a very impressive player, a very impressive fragger who can carry maps and have big games. So they do have the firepower in the right places, as well as the support pieces you'd theoretically want. You know, certain people, maybe on the show, crowed endlessly for Zontix to be in this lineup. He should have been there of his way. He finally is. So now, who's got any complaints? What is there left to nitpick and fiddle, aside from the fact that, again, they have tanked their IGL situation and it makes no fucking sense? Aside from that one thing they really bowed down to the crowd for, it's all looking good. It's all looking pretty. Spirit should be heavy favorites to win here, and I really like their chances. There's no Vitality, who are too perfect. There's no Falcons, who are just a tough matchup with a lot of firepower of their own. They just have to stomp some of these technically proficient, we have a brain type teams like Furia and MOUZ, and just pub stomp their way all the way through. I think they're looking set. They're looking pretty. AN1MO, you're a certified hater. Tell me, why do Spirit actually suck?
I actually kind of agree with you on this one.
Damn
Honestly,
it.
like, I mean, as I was writing the news, it's my job to write the preview today for the newsletter, and my main point with Furia, MOUZ, and Spirit was that all three of them could win this event, but I think, like, you know, it's not going to be a needle mover for them for the rest of the season. I think if one of the teams has the best chance of that, it's Furia. They get a little bit of confidence back. But when you look at this field, like, Spirit just kind of have to be the most likely team to win it. And I honestly think, like, if they don't win this event, and I know when we did the Flashbang Realities episode, we looked at their record against MOUZ, and it isn't as one-sided as people would assume. I'm pretty sure the record with Furia is pretty similar. Like, I think if Spirit don't win this event, like, they honestly should just make a change straight away. Like, it's just, like, it's so doomed if they don't. And I mean, like, either way, you're getting a lobotomized IGL, because that would be the change. But I just agree with you. Like, this is just the one where if they don't, they just have to win it, man. It's just so simple. Like, firepower should just get them there.
Yeah, I mean, I've been very vocal. I mean, you alluded to it before, KingT, the idea that, you know, I wanted Zontix back in this roster, and I would have taken him over Jouet in a heartbeat. But the way that the roles have shifted, the way that people are being run, and I've said this on previous episodes before, but, you know, to see Magix being the one that's throwing util and set up for late round clutches or when rounds break down is peculiar. To see Zontix running in on T side first is peculiar. And it does seem like they've taken a step back from that. As, you know, the first event that we saw with Spirit, it felt like it was always Zontix, you're hard entering with a Mac 10, you're just taking space, and that's just never been his position. Now it seems like sometimes they're chopping and changing the responsibilities, but it still seems like the balance of, especially the T sides, the balance of who's doing what is just wrong. You know, a lot of teams that you see at the top end, you're looking at your MOUZ, your Furia, your Vitality, NAVI, Mongolz. A lot of them set up star players to be the ones that throw the util, or, you know, you want your late round pieces to be the ones throwing the util because they're less likely to get traded or die on the entry. But to think that, you know, you have Tanir, you have Donk, you have Shiro, you have Zontix, all of these guys, like, Donk is maybe slightly of an exception. That guy's rarely alive in late rounds. But if you're gonna rely on a star player, like, I would find it hard for anyone to say, Donk, he's shit in clutches, because he's one of those anomalous players. It's just, he just frags hard and will play the situation right. So why Magix? Why Magix is always my question. But I don't know what thing you change in Spirit if they fail here. Like, I don't think just swapping another in-game leader fixes it, because we've seen from Chopper to Magix, you know, the overall macro looks fairly similar. Do you kick Hallie? He's been kind of, in a weird way, like the heartbeat of this team for quite some time. It's like, who do you replace him with? What, like Pashinaj? Or one of these other, you know, Russian-speaking coaches? I don't have a good candidate for you as a coach replacement on this team. And it does seem like they'd be trapped in this weird deadlock kind of position where a simple change won't quite cut it. And I'd imagine that would amount to growing frustrations for both Donk and Shiro, who have both been great pieces throughout. We saw Shiro leave a failing Cloud9 project for some of those similar frustrations. We see Donk more tilts than usual in these events. Like, I do think it hurts the sort of pulling power of Spirit to have these continual failures, especially when you start reaching the end of the road where it does seem like there's a bit of a dead end as to how you make this roster work.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I look at the benching of Chopper, and I wasn't really that into it. Like the Chopper part of this, that was my constant pushback. Is like we hate on it, and I'm always thinking, that's firstly, what's the other option? Like you say that about the coaching sort of situation in the Russian-speaking world. Like who do you bring in? Did you watch VP? We watched VP, right? Like it was a constant just roundabout spinning of just nothing. Nothing ever changed. Nothing ever got better. They slowly slid further and further and further, no matter who they brought in, and it just ended up with them here, completely in pieces, in tatters, with players looking for a way out. The IGL situation's not too different. You can take a risk on a guy like a Lear. You can see if Boomich really is, a decent call, or if he was just a great puppet. Hell, maybe Halley believes in himself, and that could be an interesting task for him. But I do simply think that Chopper was a bit hard done by. And look, the roles make a little more sense. You do have an extra bit of firepower. He won a major. He won Cologne. He won Katowice, with various iterations of this roster that were various versions of worse than this. Like, according to everyone else, the roles were worse. The players are worse. And according to me, some of the players are worse. Like, this is just a better situation for him to come back into. Now, does it help that they've just spent 3 months with best friend IGL situation, losing games and destroying them around? No, not at all. But that is, I think, the best case scenario. Is they just go back to the Chopper well. They don't pretend that they believe in any of these IGLs that they could have signed and chose not to over the last sort of year or so. And they just go back to what actually did work for several prestigious titles. And we don't pretend like that's nothing. Like, we don't pretend like that's just Donk chose to win it and that's the end of the discussion. There was more to it, and I'm willing to believe in it again.
I do think, though, like, sorry, like, no, on the Chopper point, like, I just feel like that there is, at least to some extent, Donk deciding to win it. Like, there was absolutely some games where Chopper did call a good game, and they looked like their anti-stratting was there more. Like, I'll give you that. But I do think if it was more than that, we'd have seen them win more. And I agree with you. Like, going back to Chopper, it's not great. It's probably better than this, but it's not great. Like, as I said, it's a lobotomy either way. Like, especially if they're not going to try someone like Leah out. But I think as well, like, on the kicking Halley point, I've been saying this now for fucking months, man. Like, I think Halley wants to be this puppet master, but he's like this shit, like, touring puppet group that turns up at schools to give, like, sex ed talks with puppets or something. Right. And then you've got like Cyclone or Blade or someone like that who's like making the Muppets. Like, I think Halley could be really good in tier 2, or just as like Spirit's manager. Honestly, just being there to still be like this friend, this uncle, father figure, whatever the fuck he is to this young Spirit team. But like, as their coach, man, I want to see something else now, because like the T-side roles are messy still. And I just think when we know a lot of the system is coming from Halley, because bless Magic's, man, but he ain't got anything up there. Like, I just think at some point something has to change there. Like, you can't keep just sending Donk into the brick wall, because eventually there is one that's just too sturdy.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see like actual hardline stats on this, but from the way that, from what I've observed in these Spirit games, it does seem like we're getting far more Donk suicide plays than we did under Chopper. Like, less premeditative sort of actions, and more, let's see what Donk can muster up. And I don't know that I enjoy that type of stardom. If we saw that for the first few months of Donk's breakout, that he could find success that way, but we saw them also actively pivot away from that because it still wasn't winning them tournaments. That's where we started to see Chopper take more of a head-first approach into bomb sites, and a bit more of like setting up with Donk so that Chopper swings and then Donk trades and then starts to go on a tirade. But to see them sort of take these few steps backward in terms of like the way they set up on that T side, it does feel like we have regressed substantially on this Spirit roster. And I think I've said it in a previous episode, I did look at this ESL Pro League in much the same way that you did, you sort of angled for Sam, in that, I do see this as like the best opportunity in a weird way for Spirit to express themselves. Maybe they didn't have the most productive prac time coming into the season. Maybe it was all rushed in a little too soon. Magic's still a little unfamiliar. But given that there's been a bit of a break for Spirit in terms of actual playing time, and they can sort of ramp into a pro league. I mean, it starts with an online stage first off, but I do look at this as sort of a last chance saloon. Otherwise, things start to implode from the inside.
Yeah, we'll find out what it ends up being. There could be a win that sparks. Well, this Spirit team has very little ceiling in theory. Like we do know the power of the individuals. It could spark something sensational. It could just be another wet fart, like a lot of the events they've played recently have been. You don't want to look, and you know it's bad. AN1MO, you now have your pick. Who do you like the look of from this event? Anyone catch your fancy?
I can do underdog or favorite, right?
Yeah, either way.
Right.
Okay. Let me just check. Okay, they are in the bottom half. In that case, I'm gonna go with FUT as an underdog. Because I think FUT are this team that are like, listen, they ain't gonna be winning any events anytime soon. But they're a team that are like very on the verge of making playoffs with events that have Falcons and Vitality in. So this event, especially with Paravision gone, like, I actually don't see a reason why they can't aim for at least top 4 here. And I think if they, had the right playoff bracket, potentially even get to the final. Again, still don't think they'll win it if they get there. But I think they absolutely can get there in this event. They potentially should be aiming for it. And unlike where I said for, the 3 top teams in this event, that it would be anything like some form of catalyst for them to go and start winning stuff and making Vitality look silly. I actually think FUT, as soon as they get to that first playoffs and break through that ceiling, like, I do think they could actually skyrocket from that point.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about FUT in previous episodes. We've been big fans of. I think it was sort of middle of last season, or maybe even the start of the first season last year. But we were talking about NAVI Junior and the academy, and what lie ahead for the VRS and the academy teams. Could you sell them to another organization?
Yeah, we
was
kind
it
of
actually
preempted
worthwhile?
some of the Makaze, and it wound up being Makaze's move, and some of the excitement for FUT in general. It was kind of like we preempted some of it just by getting overexcited about Navi Junior. Yeah.
Yeah, but even just the idea of them being in this conversation in the first place, being essentially startups from an academy system, like, you saw how good they were online, and it was kind of logical they'd take a leap up in some respects. But the fact they've taken to tier 1, and the way I look at games for FUT at the moment, it seems like every new matchup they get, they're pretty much destined to win it. Like, I don't know if this is actually accurate, but I want to say it's something like a 75% hit rate on first encounter wins with FUT. And I imagine that's some of the sporadic, explosive nature of people like Demon, or some of the tricky plays that Crabini will go for, or just Zhugs coming up in these clutch rounds. I do think there's a special sauce to this FUT team that I think a lot of teams are taking note of. But it is. I do think it's like teetering on the edge of, like, I look at FUT as I did MOUZ NXT once upon a time. That same core that has now become MOUZ. I look at FUT as taking that same sort of journey currently, and I think that they're honestly rapidly approaching the MOUZ threshold, while MOUZ is in a state of disarray. If MOUZ, for example, we'll talk about them later, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But if
in that
MOUZ, for
state of
example,
disarray.
if they don't win Pro League, it also could be disastrous for them. This has been one of their bread and butter, keeping themselves afloat, sort of confidence types events where it's in a studio. They just seem to take to it like a fish to water. If they don't succeed here either, when there is no Vitality or Falcons, I do think there is a conversation to be had for.
Is this one in an arena?
The playoffs, I think there is some sort of arena setup, right? It's in
Yeah, isn't Pro League
Sweden
an arena
somewhere.
event?
Yeah, it's in
again now?
Stockholm. And the playoffs are in Stockholm, in an arena.
Okay.
Yeah, so MOUZ aren't winning this.
That's shift my.
No, I mean,
well, again, we'll talk about MOUZ later, I'm
We will,
sure.
we will.
But I do think that FUT are rapidly approaching that threshold, and it's one of those where if you're MOUZ, you're probably looking at that FUT roster very intently as to, hey, maybe after the major, like, do you make roster moves to try and get that? Can you even feasibly approach that financially, actually? Because FUT do seem to have quite a... I'd imagine they have decent pulling power. The organization is quite established as well, so... but yeah, we like this FUT team. There's a lot of people to enjoy.
Yeah, no, we've made, obviously we're going to avoid the lazy puns today. We've done them over and over about FUT and all that stuff. But no, there is going to be for MOUZ or for any team that's like, oh, we need upgrades. Why not take some pieces from FUT? Hey, Liquid, what if we want to buy the entire fucking lot? Firstly, yes, there is the aspect that FUT as an org, whilst we're not familiar with them with CS, they have some other games where they're bigger, from what I understand, and they do have some sort of financial backing that's not just a random casino.
Team.
They're a what, sorry?
VCT teams, so they'll probably get a decent amount of money from Valorant.
Okay, Valorant, right. Ugh. I mean, Valorant, a child game aside, it still is money, it still is pull, it's something. And they also, at the same time, if you're a team who wants the players, so does fucking everyone else. So there's going to be a bidding war. And so, yeah, you do have to put in a substantial sum, I'd imagine, just to settle any of these players. So I'm doubtful about MOUZ specifically actually getting those moves done. But the real thing for them is more, yeah, this is a team that's trending very hard up. And I think everyone, not just MOUZ, who is not Vitality, maybe not Falcons and Spirit, because those are the teams that just beat MOUZ every day. And aside from Furia, have posed real threats to Vitality. I mean, I think Furia are just lucky on their timing. They don't win those titles in the first half of the year, no matter how good those players play. I think that for a lot of those teams, though, it's going to be kind of shocking to just see this team just climbing and climbing and climbing and consistently getting wins. And sure, they don't always beat the Furias. They don't always beat the Falcons. They struggle to make playoffs, actually make the playoff. They struggle to actually... I'm sure they will struggle to win a lot of games in those playoffs. But as they, keep developing as they have so far, they've yet to seemingly hit a ceiling or find some sort of level. It'll be terrifying because they are very young, they're very explosive, and they present threats in a variety of ways. And they have one weakness. And that one weakness is pretty good in a clutch with a rifle, which I noticed came up. I randomly saw. I got a YouTube short of fucking like King Demps saying that. And I was like, are we the same person? So I've said this like 12 times now. I think I've got a clone, but yeah. They are going to be a terrifying team for everyone else. It's like, yeah, the floor's coming up to smash you in the ass. Fucking jump higher.
Yeah, the Cemetery conversation is always funny because it's weird to see, like, statistically, it doesn't always look great. He has a lot of red numbers.
Aesthetically, it also doesn't often look great, especially on an org when he has to put the crosshair on people.
But he is having like very low impact overall games, but then having these very important moments. So, it's still maybe the weakest link. I do think the amber flag, though, from this Pro League has been probably that as many of their games ran as close as they did versus, I wouldn't say the most well put together lineups. Stage 1 is chock full of a little bit inconsistent teams, but M80 was a close game. Passion UA was a close game. And these are teams that are undergoing recent roster moves as well. Astralis, weirdly was maybe their
Astralis is a comfortable win. And the M80 game is classic. We are an actually good team. We've played a bunch of events coming into this smaller event against a tiny team for whom this is the World Cup. They beat us on the opening map. Boo-hoo, 13-5, 13-5, get the fuck out the way. Like, it was... To me, that wasn't a close game. That was just... It just was what it was on Anubis, and then they just showed them. The gap is really fucking there. The one that's a bit concerning is Passion UA. But Lord, Passion UA are going to be the bogey team of every group stage at every event they attend. With that roster and Senzu capable of pulling that bullshit, even without apparently speaking a lick of English or having any comms or any idea what's going on, he just shows up and shoots. Yeah, you're going to struggle sometimes against them. It's one of those, they're going to be the flukiest inconsistent, most difficult to predict team. There will be nothing consistent about that roster for the rest of the year. So no, I think
Listen,
Foot still look good.
The Senzu conversation is always funny because he doesn't speak fluent English, you know. But I do think his lack of English speaking ability has been grossly exaggerated. Like he played on an international team.
I'm playing it. I have no actual knowledge or opinion, but I'm playing into the idea that he doesn't speak any English.
He's just like, I'm just gonna run in and kill me.
I think he doesn't. But it is just better to think he doesn't.
True.
Straight
It's
up.
more fun.
I have a couple of questions, by the way.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you know how you compared Foot to MOUZ NXT? Obviously the MOUZ NXT core kind of no longer exists. I guess you can slap Jim Fat into it if you want to.
No, he is MOUZ NXT. Yeah.
Yeah, but not in the
I know
sense
what
of
you
like the.
Yeah.
Anyway, which do you think has the higher potential ceiling? Foot or that MOUZ NXT trio that remains on MOUZ?
I'd still say MOUZ NXT.
Yeah. Because I've yet to see Crabini, Launex, these guys like on a big stage. And obviously the joke is, haha, MOUZ shit on stage, but obviously that's something they got past. Plus, quite importantly, to this day, even throughout all their struggles, their trials and tribulations, their cataclysmic failures, they lose to 3 teams. You know, that's about it. Like, they're still a fantastic stage team against everyone else.
I just think MOUZ played a more like macro or like a more meta coherent game. You know, I'd say Foot are a little bit more niche or a little bit more rogue. But the firepower on the riflers is a little bit more complete. Like you've got a great opener, you've got a great finisher, and then you've got a Crabini that's a bit of a wild card. And you can have some of these other pieces step up into the moment. Launex actually is another one of these sort of wild cardish type players. Where I feel like the rifling core is a lot stronger on Foot. I'm not so sure about scalability with them. With the MOUZ NXT roster, it felt like you could see the rail that they were attached to. With Foot, I think it's a little bit more all-terrain hiking.
Okay, well, my second one then. Do you think Foot becomes a playoff team first? And call it an 8-team playoff if you want, just for the sake of easier, where they're consistently making them. Or does the roster just get like picked apart first? And when does the roster get picked apart?
Doesn't that, for me, look, I'm going to jump in on that one. It depends on Foot. Because if Foot are looking to make a quick buck and fuck off after this major, like that's after this major, they start getting picked apart. They start selling players for $150,000, and they just go, all right, cool, sweet, made a profit on this Counter-Strike game. Pretty easy. I don't know what you idiots have all been complaining about, losing money. And then they just bugger off and go do something else, or they start again at a lower level. It just depends on their mentality. If they want to keep them, they'll just keep them. And I think that they'll eventually make playoffs. Consistently is another question, but they will just make playoffs before they get sold if they choose to.
I think the worrying sign would be, I mean, if you're Foot and you're, very business-minded, you can make your money off the major by, I mean, they're already well within the threshold to make the major.
Yeah.
But then you could also still sell some pieces off because, you know, you could double dip essentially. You can make your major sticker money, which isn't that significant for if you're only like a stage 1 team, for example, and make bank on transfers, or you could just make the major money. And if you want to be a long-standing brand and try and retain the players, that major money would obviously help you retain those players. But yeah, if you want to make your money, you could do both. Essentially, is what I'm getting at.
Because I kind of feel like this 5-man team, like we won't see this 5-man team in July. It is my thinking. Like I think Cologne, they'll make the playoffs, and then they'll sell someone.
See, the thing is, I actually agree. We won't see this team in July, just because by that point they'll just change a player. They won't sell a player. Like, they won't be like, oh, Demon has a $600,000 offer buyouts. No, it's more like they'll be like, give us Jorko, I guess, and just upgrade Symmetry to someone else who's talented and young. Like, I think it's more likely they make an upgrade than someone comes in and makes them an offer. If they're making that kind of money and they want to be in the game, like, they'll just be like, yeah, there's no one's going to give them a fuck you offer, like you can't refuse this offer. I think people are going to try to be reasonable until they see FUT win an event. If FUT win an event with this team, yeah, well, they may never leave the space, but they're probably not going to be offered something stupid. There's no king's ransom for any of these players. There's no donk. There's no Monte.
Falcons Jugs? No. Who says no?
Jugs?
Yeah, maybe might actually be it.
You might be doing better off without them, but yeah, maybe not financially. So yeah, that's your pick, YouM3. You've got back-to-back picks, 2 selections to make, a lot of options still on the board. Who would you like?
I am so not. The favorites conversation is just so unenjoyable to me, so I'm going to try and lock in as many of these as I can very early. I will start with the more rogue one. I'm picking the Mongolz. They have reinstilled a bit of confidence in me that they can get their shit together. I picked them very early. I think I'll start that. You know, coming into this season, I picked them very early when they just made the roster move, and I thought, you know, maybe by some miracle they'll figure it out. But that's just also not the Mongolz way. They take a couple of months to figure out how they're going to play their positions. They have shifted back to a bit more of an aggressive blitz opener style because Cobra is a bit more of a late round player, a bit more mid-roundy. Kind of how he was before, actually not too dissimilar to how they kind of implemented controllers, but Cobra is far more, instead of being the third in, he's more of a fourth in type player. And so far, Cobra's been actually quite impressive. You know, he's had those explosive moments. He's been a bit more confident than I'm actually used to seeing him play. Even domestically, I feel like I see more hesitation and indecision from Cobra than I'm seeing on the Mongolz. And I imagine that's just the culture that they're fostering behind the scenes, that, you know, they picked him up directly. You know, they could have always stuck with controllers. They could have gone for a bit more of a hard-headed player, someone like a Yami, for example, but they wanted someone that was reliable and consistent, and that seems to be what Cobra is delivering so far. So I'm kind of liking how things are starting to shape up for the Mongolz. I think they're one of those teams that, you know, doesn't have the dark marks that some of these others in the favorites category have. You know, if you look down the line, there's a lot of, are they going to make a roster move? Are they going to fix their strats? Will they choke? Why does FaZe Clan exist? The Mongolz are less like that. So I'm picking them for good vibes. I like seeing the Mongolz do well, and I can only hope that that maintains in this Pro League.
Yeah, so far, does kind of look like we're witnessing another Mara masterclass. Like, it does kind of feel like it. And some of us knew who Cobra Zero was, like watched him a bit as a Mongolian player, like when he was in the Mongolian scene, I mean, said, like, the aim's insane. Like, there's something here. If Mara figures out the right way to use him, he could be lethal. He could be better than Senzu, I said on one fateful episode of Retake the Week. Like, I threw that out there. Like, it could be a real thing that this team plays better than the Senzu version if it's all figured out. That's yet to come true. They haven't won, you know, one of those prestigious titles that they did with Senzu, one of those Thunderpick World Championships. Oh, the pinnacle of esports. But hey, the opportunity's there and the opportunity's here. I think this is a very threatening team, AN1MO. I don't know about you. I find it hard to be particularly pessimistic about this team after what I just saw.
I mean, we're not pessimistic, but I could certainly do realistic. I mean, I don't know, man. Like, you say masterclass, like, what are we describing as a masterclass? What is a masterclass? Because, like, are they going to be as good as the last version of the Mongolz? Still, maybe
they get as much help with shitty brackets as the old Mongolz did. Like, yeah, 100%. Like, you saw that EWC bracket.
I mean, fine.
You saw
like,
their major final bracket. Like, they got a lot of help from the gods above.
If you can consistently get the shitty bracket, or rather the good bracket, then sure, fine. But, like, I don't know, man. Like, they can absolutely go far in this event. Like, they should be aiming for playoffs, not just because they're in the top 8 ranked teams, but because I think it would probably be pretty disappointing if they didn't make it, honestly, after the last event. But I don't see them kind of ever doing what they did last year, to be honest.
I think it's very hard to. I always find it hard to read the Mongolz, like from the outside in. You know, when they picked up 910 and Mizzino, for example, I was like, this seems odd. 910 wasn't even really the next AWPer in line, technically, in the Mongolian scene. Same with Senzu, even. You know, you could have made the argument that Yami was a better fit if they wanted an aggressive sort of star-level rifler. But it does seem like they always seem to break past those expectations in a weird way. And maybe, you know, Cobra is not really a 1-for-1 for Senzu. They're probably hoping that Mizzino comes into his own a bit more. Techno has a bit more consistency in these weird late round clutches that I don't necessarily think he should always be in. But you know, they're finding that so far within these events through a 910 that's far more aggressive, you know, taking a few more risks and actually succeeding in finding that consistency that kind of eluded them even when they did the Thunder Pick and EWC runs. You know, 910 was always kind of like one map you'd maybe see him be completely unleashed, and then another he'd be totally unleashed but missing everything. And it was
the leash is never really on. It's just, can he reward the off-leash behavior?
and it's painful to watch at times, and it's probably, you know, part of the reason that you even saw so many secondary AWPs for Senzu and then Blitz doing it, and you know, they wanted to try and increase the efficacy of his position by adding another AWP to the equation. And it didn't, you know, it is definitely meta in some maps to do that, but it didn't feel like a good solution for the Mongolz. So, yeah, I'm optimistic. You know, I don't think I can realistically look at the Mongolz and think these guys should be winning the championships every time. You know, the total population of Mongolia, just the fact that they're in the conversation of like top 5, top 8 is already a great success for the organization and where these players come from, essentially. So I can't be as critical as, per se, like a Liquid or a FaZe or a lot of these more legacy organizations that have demanded trophies in the past.
There's at least things to praise with the Mongolz. There's not anything to praise with those teams.
Sure.
Yeah, always that's the bright side. Yeah, those teams, we don't just hate them. We go scorched earth. We don't want to see their fucking logo on our screens. Mongolz, we give them
credit. Tired of this shit.
But yeah, for me, in terms of the statement I just made, though, with the whole like matching or surpassing last year, and the masterclass refers to really like MARA's ability to take a player who isn't any guaranteed superstar, who's not a collection of players who are, for the most part, just random Mongolians as far as we're aware, and bring out all their best qualities and make them play a certain brand of CS and certain style of CS that just suits them and is effective and disruptive for top level teams. Even people call it, oh, you're just taking a bunch of fights. It's like, yeah, but if they were, they wouldn't be winning games at all. But the fact that I say they can match it is basically, it's based on the fact that I'm incredibly cynical when I look at their 2025 and a bit negative because I'm like, look at who they beat in playoffs. There's a couple wins in there that like, that's a real win. A lot of it is nothing. It's nothing. The number of like they beat Liquid, G2, Aurora. There's a nice Vitality win. They played at big event playoffs, 3D Max for crying out loud. Like they have had a fantastically lightweight, heavyweight opponent sort of set. I mean, no one else got to play FaZe then Pain in a major bracket to make a final, and then just look at the end of the year resume and be like, look at major finalists, look at us. Like, who would have thought? Everyone, when they saw who you played, bro, like this was not a particularly impressive year in that sense, and I think they can definitely match it. So yeah, give them those brackets. Even a harder bracket, I think there's a chance they can surpass it. There always was in the past. It's just, I do think Cobra Zero is a talented player, and I do think Mara's done a good job of getting a lot out of these players before. If he does it again, they will be lethal.
All right. And in terms of contenders, I go for another favorite here. I'll pick one that's been capitulating a lot. I'm going to go with Furia. I don't feel great about this one, to be quite honest, but it was between Furia or MOUZ for me, and I already spent a little bit of the segment talking about how they might die if they don't win this Pro League. So I'm hoping for a team that won't die after this Pro League. Yeah, I just want Furia to get their shit together, because K-Serrato has actually looked kind of like 1v9 in some of these games. He's also gone missing in a couple of matches. I can't deny that, but it's either K-Serrato's having a crazy game or Molodoy's having a crazy game, and then it's just like the chasm that exists past that is kind of terrifying to watch at times for Furia. Molodoy has been significant, but he does also just disappear versus other top 5 teams at the moment. And I hope that they can get past that hurdle. I don't really have like a lot of critical thinking behind this one for Furia because I have not been impressed with them so far this year. But I remain hopeful. Like the team is exciting and well constructed. That's what I look at currently, and I would rather them over MOUZ.
So I did wait for you to finish that because as soon as you said Furia, chat lit the fuck up. Because all caps from Sid, no relation to Sid, the coach of the team.
Sure.
Guys, do not pick Furia. Fallen isn't going to play playoffs.
Wait, what?
Yeah, the coach Sid is standing in.
Oh my god. Wait. Oh my no. Am I allowed to change? Is that allowed?
Right, that cannot be allowed.
No, that's locked. Oh, that is such unfortunate timing. Apparently, it just happened. Like as you were talking, it had just.
There's
happened.
no fucking way.
Yeah,
No,
apparently
it's
it had just
like-
happened.
Like 25 minutes ago.
Oh, 25 minutes. Okay, there is some.
Okay.
There's an Osney tweet at the top of my timeline.
Bomboclat.
That is kind of funny and kind of tragic. But hey, look, at least it's Fallen being replaced by Sid. It's not. It's not Keserato. It's not Yakindar. It's not even Yuri. It's Fallen, who, let's be real, fragging wise, wasn't bringing that much to the table.
It wasn't shit.
It wasn't shit. I mean, he's one of those classic 0.91 rated, but we remember one clutch, so we say he's not shit type of players. He was shit. I'm going to be clear. He was pretty shit. It's just, yeah, he does have the occasional clutch, and he is pretty important as, like, you know, the captain of the team. So from that perspective, yeah, it is a problem. But hey, let's talk about it. Furia. I'm frustrated with Mongolz. I still think he's a fantastic AWP and will be fantastic, and he's for me, I've called him this basically on a few shows now. He's the win condition on Furia, because you gave Keserato some credit, but in the playoff series where Mongolz has his problems, which is to say usually he carries one map, is a bot in 2, and that leads to a 2-1 loss. Keserato's like a bot in 3, and everyone just kind of forgets he exists. And I always find that more frustrating. Like, I'd rather my player tried to win and lost it. And that's what Mongolz typically does. Like, he does force the issue. He tries too many of those little re-peaks, those extra smoke pushes, the extra fight he likes to take. He tries too much. He does too much. And he doesn't, you know, in a very Shiro, Zaiwu-esque way, doesn't narrow his fight selection down to the very efficient, very winnable, very easy shots that he should be taking. He sometimes makes it too difficult on himself. That being said, they're still a very threatening team, and even with their coach standing in, look, I still think they're actually pretty decent. Like, their odds of winning the tournament, they probably were the favourites, like the actual odds-on favourites. They're probably down to like 2nd, maybe 3rd in a bookie now. Like, I'd still think it's a solid enough pick to have. This Furia side, yeah, they've done enough to be worthy of that sort of respect. Just, yeah, kind of funny timing on the whole stand in front.
What's Sidder like as a player? Is he capable?
I have no idea.
Is he a coach with hands? Is he like?
He doesn't have a playing career at a HLTV level.
Yeah,
he's a
In that
career
case-
coach, as far as I'm
In
aware.
that case, I'm gonna say that the Mongolz pick just skyrocketed in value.
yeah.
Because I like. He's saying Furia don't even make playoffs. Kind of mental.
That's very mental, I think.
Well, I mean, they're playing with they'd be playing with Fallen until the playoffs.
Until
I
playoffs
assume.
as well, yeah. It's only in playoffs
Yeah,
when the
but
replacement's
what if-
happening.
What if they're just like, you know, just writing it off at this point?
Just kind of phoning it in, like
Yeah,
they
they just-
anyway, like
A Brazilian
like-
team needing an excuse to phone it in? It doesn't sound like them.
Well,
They usually just phone it in when they want to, just arbitrarily. Like, they don't need
Okay.
an excuse or reason.
I'm gonna double down and say that they'll at least be in the 2-2 for the stage.
Okay.
But I really don't think they're getting past quarters now. But I just can't see them beating anyone in the playoffs, because I just think I just don't think the players are in the form to do that without Fallen. I'm with you where I'm so frustrated by this team because I actually adore this team. Like, I think towards the end of last year, and I've enjoyed, like, I'm a patriot, right?
Right.
And I can ignore the French because they are French. So I've quite enjoyed Vitality. I really have. I mean, Messi is about as close geographically to me as like anyone in England can be. So that makes it extra nice. But Furia is a team that I can enjoy for every single person on the team. And I kind of like I knew a bit of it was form at the end of the last year, but I kind of thought that it was less than it actually has been. And like now we're in the reality of it. It's like, okay, you're still good, but you are actually genuinely just nowhere near as good as I thought you were or could be. And then it's the things like you say with Molodoi, like he's just botting out in too many important games, and I kind of feel like he actually just makes it harder on himself than even you suggested. Then, like I kind of feel like he just does dumb shit when he's having those games, and he can just calm it down. And then like Yuri, Queserato, nowhere near the same level of impact that they were having. And I think, like, don't get me wrong, I think they were probably second favourites before that. But, like, yeah, I don't know, man. I can't see them winning a playoff game. And I honestly think with the intangible of demotivation, they won't make it to playoffs now.
Sure. Yeah, I could definitely see that. I mean, just as well for the viewers that maybe aren't aware, you know, a lot of ESL Pro Leagues and ESL events in general have done like 16 playoffs before. This is one of the few Pro Leagues that's gone back to an 18 playoff. So we actually do have like actual quarters into semis, which does help in some regards, just in terms of like enjoying the event, but it does shift the barrier. You know, now we have 8 teams in the playoff. Yeah, it does hurt. I mean, finding out as I was picking it that apparently Sida is going to be stepping in is a pretty rough intangible, because I want to say positive things, you know, like Yakindo apparently is secondary calling a lot, and maybe even sometimes talks more than full in games. They've said as much as in interviews about, you know, how they're setting up on their T sides. We're on our comms listenings. You see how vocal Yakindo is, and so you would think that the transition isn't that bad, but you know, Sida is not a playing coach, and whether it's Queserato and Yuri, those guys have typically sucked at maintaining focus on events that are smaller or where they're expected to win. You know, that's why you're talking about, do they need an excuse to phone it in? Typically not. So
they are the kings of what, like 5th to 8th finishes in CCTs where they're invited to the top 8. Like
just cannot be asked. Yeah.
They're just unable to take those games seriously. Like these motherfuckers better never have a 9 to 5 is what I'm saying. Like they're getting fired instantly.
I'd say aside from that, though, you know, if you're just talking about Molodoi in isolation, I think a positive for him is that he is such a brazen type player in group stages and in games in general that he typically catches teams off. And I think, you know, when you talk about players and how they play and how they scale into stage games, very often they want to almost play the opposite way of how aggressive they are. You know, if you're a hyper aggressive, explosive entry, typically they play a little slower. Or if you're a slow team, you try and play a little bit more up tempo to try and catch them out with the environment and show that the game planning is all off. Molodoi does look very uncomfortable when he has done that with Furia. And I think that's probably part of the hurdle. Is I don't know if it's necessarily like the stage pressure, but it actually might just be the metagaming behind the scenes for Furia about, like, yes, Molodoi, we're going to let you do all these crazy things in the normal environment, and only for we're going to only have a sprinkle of that aggression when we get to the playoffs. I really do think it hurts his confidence. Like he doesn't get the opportunity to springboard into games. So I feel like it is one of those sort of flash points that will happen for Furia at some point where they just break past that and just go, actually, we're just going to let Molodoy do that again in these playoff games, because I'm sure you could see it as a liability, but the way that they're playing it currently also feels like a drawback to the Furia game planning.
Yeah, their playoffs have just not been good. And it's easy to fixate on Molodoy the way I do, because I'm a, big Molodoy fan. But just looking at the team across the board, it's all bad. Like, it's bad from top to bottom. Keserato's playoff ratings are 104. Yekendar's a 104. Molodoy's a 104. Fallen and Yuri are 0.92, 0.89, respectively. Like, they're just not playing well in terms of their ratings. Then Molodoy, yeah, if you look at it's funny to break down his maps, like sort them top to bottom in rating, just the maps he has in playoffs. It goes from a 196 to a 0.39. And they're pretty much perfectly broken down green to red. Like, they just don't win when he's not carrying them. And they cannot win when he's playing below average, let alone dog shit. They are awful as a team right now in playoffs. And in groups, yeah, I mean, it might be a big difference. Just in groups, they let him play his game entirely. They don't ask him to finagle, like, oh, now do it, now don't. There's none of that. It's just pure, straight, do whatever the hell you did online as a Kazakh nobody and just hit the shots again anyway, and fucking it'll work. They don't let him have that. So yeah, maybe there is some element of that. Sam, we're back to you. AN1MO with the Animus. What's the pick?
Well, I think on the basis of what's being said in chat, I'll go for MOUZ.
Crying out loud. Look at this guy. Look at this guy.
I will go for MOUZ. Listen, I told you my goal is to score one single point. Right, and now, if I'm correct in saying, I need a team in semi-finals from the favourites to
Correct.
Score a point. Then MOUZ are the perfect team. Because they will be in the semi-finals. They might even be in the finals.
They've scored a point at every event so far this year. So.
Listen, they certainly shan't be winning the event. It's in an arena. It ain't happening. I also we spoke about this when you came on my show. I don't think you particularly agree with a lot of the MOUZ criticisms, but to me, like, this roster is... It's not a dead roster in the typical sense, right? It's not that like, oh yeah, but we just got to trudge on for another 2 months and then we get to the major and we play the major and we bum out and then we're even more justified in the changes we're making. It's just a dead roster in the sense of like, nothing's going to change with this team. And I know you think it's impressive. I think it's impressive too. Like, I'll make that clear. I just think like this team can be more with like, one, preferably 2, but 1 change. And this team, I actually think, can win events. Like, they're not going to be dominant, but they can be part of what I think. Like, I think when Vitality get shifted off this time, like, I think it will be 3, 4, maybe even 5 teams just constantly cycling events between themselves. And I just think MOUZ need a change to get there. But that said, it's a slightly weaker field. Even when it's the best field imaginable, they still make the semi-final anyway. So, score 1 for the guests.
Yeah,
thank you everyone for playing.
Cannot knock the game logic there, because MOUZ will make the semis most likely. That is just what they do.
Yeah.
I hate having this conversation with MOUZ because, there was a time where I was like, wow, these guys are maybe the best mid-rounding team in the world. I don't even see that as much anymore. I see less of the positives that I did once upon a time, essentially. And, especially as these guys have, grown as a roster and gone through iterations, brought in some experience in, a Burlan or a Spinx to try and rectify the issues that the previous iterations did have. It's kind of, it has improved them. I won't lie, it has improved them. But now we just enter this weird point where, like, these guys are competitors. Coming second and not winning trophies and not winning things kind of goes against the nature of what a competitor is. Like, as a professional, as an organization, MOUZ are very successful. The fact that they make as many playoffs as that when other teams can only hope that they end up in that conversation is impressive. But as competitors, I see a little bit of MOUZ die every single time. Every post-game interview, every choke they have, I see a part of their soul die. And I think that's what makes this team feel so much like so auraless or so dead in a non-typical sense. Because we look at it from a perspective of, well, would I be happy with always coming in second place? Would I be happy with choking and failing in all these games? No, most people would say no. So, yeah, I do. I was calling, and I'm sure many others were calling for changes to happen a long time ago with MOUZ, especially at the end of last year. That was their time to do it. Apparently, they were shopping around. Nothing ended up happening.
Yeah, and they were looking for PR. They were trying to get PR in for Jimmy, and I'm just like, you haven't achieved a fucking thing by making that move. You've gotten younger, less experienced, and fucked your roles even more. So I hated that idea from them as a theory, as a rumor. I hated, honestly, the fact that people picked it up and went, like, you imbeciles. Like, are you
the community has their favorites, though.
Literally anything help you. Like, are you mad?
I like that one for GymFat more than I like it for MOUZ.
Yeah, maybe if that's your boy.
Free, he can just get. Well, he's not. I think GymFat's like mildly overrated at his best. I don't think he's this crazy game changer. I think he would be for Falcons though. So there, like he can go and get the bag, be freed from Spinks and the kills that were just be free from Spinks. That's the
he'll fix the discipline issues in Falcons. That's the difference. That'll change it. Yeah, Jesus Christ. No, we actually. I'm very sick and tired of discussing it. I had a video literally, like, I'd edited it, and then I was like, honestly, I've got too much time with work to finish this to make it look pretty. Like, putting all the little graphics and flashes up, things that get 60,000 views, irrespective of content, of course. I just couldn't be bothered because I didn't have time anymore. So I just left it to one side to die. But I'm just sick of the conversations I hear because so many of them are just so off base. Like, just swapping in a random other closer for Jimmy, you've achieved nothing. You've done nothing that really shifts the needle in my eyes because he's still major roll cucked by Spinks in every context. And what you expect slightly more out of that position, like 1% out of it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. I don't see those sorts of changes working. The one change I've begrudgingly admitted I'll accept, well, there's two technically, but one's likely, is the JL move, maybe fixing the mental.
Yes, come on.
Maybe that'll help.
Come on.
But aside from, getting in a true Don IGL to change up the entire mentality and structure of the team, which, again, someone else needs to fuck up royally for you to even get them, it's just not going to happen. So I'm just like, you know what? If I'm talking as the MOUZ org who's supposedly making these changes, I'm not changing a damn thing until one of these guys comes along and just goes, actually, I think I can do better and get money from someone else. I'm going to leave. I'm not making a damn change. I'm not. And funnily enough, no one's left for some reason. It's like these players know who they are and they can't do better. And I guess that's a part of their stagnation, part of their secretly deadness. But until it stops making top fours and I stop making majors, I'm not changing them.
I'll be so fucking for real. I think I said this on. I did a show with Ted on TED Talk. Shout that out one time. I would take Alexi being wonderful. Like, if you could merge NAVI to this team, like, I would take Alexi being wonderful. It doesn't necessarily have to be both, but I would love to see Alexi with this team, for example.
Yeah.
Like, just kind of an ideological shift. I think that's what's necessary for MOUZ, whether that comes in the place of experienced veterans or in-game leaders or coaches. It does feel like there has to be an ideological shift because, they're spiraling. I feel like they end up in the same traps.
You don't get that player again if Navi don't fuck things up. That's my, very simple opinion. So yeah, that's the MOUZ talk. Oh, we're back to me. And MOUZ didn't fall all the way down. What a shame. I have been relying on them for consistent points. And they've yet to let me down. So I was really looking forward to a MOUZ pick. But hey, I'm going to be honest. The favourites pool is looking... It's like, it's like, as the old analogy goes, it's 3 a.m. at the bar. And you're like, oh, God. If I was sober, there'd be nothing to pick, but I'm hammered, so maybe. I'm not hammered, lads, so I'm not interested in what's left in the favourites pool. But in the underdogs pool, there's a few teams that are at least fun. Interesting. bat for the other team for once. See what's down there. Let's go and let's select. Yeah, that is the analogy I chose.
Yeah, all right.
Let's go see what Astralis are up to. Yeah. Astralis, honestly, also annoy me. A lot of the teams at this event annoy me. They're not
so
bad,
real.
but bloody hell, Astralis annoy the hell out of me. And I mean this because I'm very invested in some of these players as individuals. I think Ryu's been, really a fascinating player to follow and to see his rise as a trader, as a late round player. He's been doing a lot. He's been doing a lot of impressive stuff. I've really been interested in this Fuzi journey, going across the world, proving himself. Somehow still gets called a tier 3 bot by every imbecile on Reddit, HLTV, and Twitch chat. Like, not a single one of you's watched a second of CS, apparently, or just typing nonsense. Even on Wildcard, he wasn't a tier 3 bot. Like, you watched him play against the best teams in the world, clutch, round after round, have these massive impact plays and maps, and you're like, this guy could play on so many teams. Then Astralis end up with him, and now he's a bot again. I don't get it. But look, these players are really fun and explosive. Stare, whilst he still has the question mark surrounding him, it still has very solid maps. Yabi finds moments to explode. And Hooksy alternates madly between literal genius and degenerate gambler. Like, watching his T-sides is like, he sometimes just looks at the roulette wheel and goes, well, it technically can come up green, and then just bets green 4 times in a row. You're like, why? Like, the number of times I see his team just go blindly through a smoke for no reason in a 5v3. There's a great example against 3D Max where they find at least one opening pick somewhere else on the map. Body has just smoked ramp, and then they will just go, what if we just went through it dry, though? And then the entire team goes through it and they all get sprayed down. I was like, what the fuck was the point of that? Like, there was no setup for it. There was no real trading available because you're just blindly walking through a smoke at ramp. Like, he does some crackhead stuff that ticks me off. But then so many of the T-halves he calls, beautiful. Properly coordinated with good fakes and good timing and great tempo switches. And it just makes a lot of sense. And the players are able to deliver time and time again. And they just look like a good team. So the frustrating thing with Astralis is that duality. It's a very Hooksy focused duality, but still, I think you get some of it in terms of how touch and go Stare and Yabi are, like how often they can be either electric or shocked. Like, they are just maddening in the sense that they can be 2 sides of the same coin. But yeah, when it works fantastically, and they win the event is not an impossibility, but they've made stranger grand finals with this core. Or stranger playoff runs, I should say, with this core. And so making a top 8 at least, and if the matchups are right, making a top 4, I think is more than viable. So yeah, I actually kind of like Astralis here as an underdog.
Yeah, I mean, if you hadn't have gone for Astralis, I was going to. I don't love this team. I like it. I don't like Yabi. I'm indifferent to Stare. Ryu and Fuzi. I can't believe they have Fuzi, honestly. Like, it actually.
Yeah, he should be on FaZe, he should be on Liquid, he should be on so many teams.
It blows my mind that Astralis, after the years of shit, and I know that, like, we can say FaZe was shit for most of last year, and Liquid have been shit for
ever
a few years as well, but, like, how were Astralis the only ones that realised Fuzi could actually help them turn around? Because they have turned around. They have turned a corner with this team. I said when you came on Overtime on Inferno, I still don't think this is the final 5 that will, like, really push them through. I think there was quite a... And I know, like, people take these comms things out of context all the time. But I do think that...
Let's do it again,
clip,
yeah.
Well, yeah, but that clip that got, like, posted of, like, Hooksy and Rugger, like, properly going at each other the way they did, like, it did... That does show something that I dislike. And I'm not sure if I dislike it more in terms of what it presents about the relationship between Hooksy and Rugger, or just about Hooksy as a leader. And maybe that is also the answer to your questions about his seeming gambling addiction. But I don't know, man. Like, I see them making the playoffs. I think this event is a failure if they don't make the playoffs. But yeah, I like the team. They've turned a corner. I just don't think that this is them in their final form yet. But maybe if Yabi evolves, develops a real human chin that belongs to a real human boy, then listen, perhaps this is the 5 to do it.
Right. Yeah, I wanted to go last on the Astralis conversation because I know I've tried to big this up before, and I've definitely talked about it previously. You know, I liked the direction they went with it. You know, I was never really that sold on Device. He kind of existed on the roster for a while. I wasn't really. I just wanted Stare to not necessarily be like star aggro rifler type. Like, just not really his bread and butter.
Yeah, he's not that guy.
Yeah, and I think that's the way I like to look at it is, you know, I get pretty fixated on sometimes like role anchor late round type players. You know, I love players like Mezzi. In a weird way, I appreciated what Norbert used to do, for example. You know, these are the guys that I try to big up because they sometimes take some not so nice roles and they do pretty well in their respective positions. I feel like that is what Stare is supposed to be. He is supposed to be the Mezzi on this team. He's supposed to have slightly greater output, you know, be put in some good positions, but typically eat shit and do well while eating shit. And I think the addition of Ryu and Fuzi has actually helped him do that. You know, you have an Orper that can take some chances. You have Ryu that can be an aggressive piece. Yeah, the question mark for me on this roster is really Yabi. You know, they don't necessarily have like a proper star player on this Astralis team. They have pieces that are all like, you know, if you had to put them on a grading calculator, they'd be like 15% better than most pieces in their positions. But the teams that are elite, the teams that win trophies, have somebody that's at like 150%. And there's nobody on this roster that I can see do that. And especially when you have somebody like Hooksy or like Chopper, for example, or like a Carrigan, sorry, you need someone that can offset the imperfections of your in-game leader, and there just doesn't exist a piece like that on Astralis. So it's one of the shortcomings I think they have on this team. So I will agree that I think if we're going to see them lift trophies or win championships in any meaningful way, this is not how Astralis will look. But I like what they're doing. You know, I think that's why I'm always a little bit hesitant to be too critical of Astralis. You know, I like the direction that they're taking it. You know, fuck all the era conversation, expectations of the organization, whatever. Astralis were free falling for a while. They brought Hooksy in. They turned the corner since the Hooksy move. You know, even if all these other rosters seemed a little dysfunctional, they got better. And they are continuing to get better currently with the direction that they're heading. So I appreciate solid GMing. I wouldn't say it's exceptional or it's great, but you know, they're taking active moves to improve their situation. Hard to be too critical, in my opinion.
Yeah, turns out Hooksy, teams just work with him. Like, a lot of the time they just work. And I thought it was a Danish thing when G2 was so terrible, only won 3 big events and then never matched it with any other IGL. You know, that whole thing. That terrible period that Richard Lewis managed to discredit. That was still one of the funniest things I've ever seen. It's Richard Lewis break down how exactly all of those trophies Hooksy won with G2 were fraudulent. That was next level. That man is destined for politics at some point, I swear. But yeah, it wasn't just a Danish language thing, because this team's now international and working. So fuck it. He's just a good caller. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Nico's a problem. I don't know. That's a theory for another time. But
also, I'd just like to say the Hooksy Rugga thing does get blown out of proportion typically in these communities, right? But
he does seem a bit too tilted. I think
that was something we understood. Yeah, but that's the thing we understood about Hooksy even from the G2 time. You know, you could tell how tilted this guy used to get. But you know, Apex tilts. He doesn't tilt as much now that they're winning everything, but Apex tilts.
They lose one round and he's usually slam and fucking shout. But I remember we used to have this conversation on this show. Like, you know, something Apex would fuck something up, slam his desk, stare at Spinks and fucking start yelling. And just like, The fuck did Sphinx do? He's
Or,
on the other side
or
of the
Flames
map.
or whoever.
Yeah,
like,
you'd stare at someone who had nothing to do with anything, just start screaming. You're like, what the fuck was that for? It was puzzling. So maybe that isn't going to be that big of a deal. I hope it's not, because yeah, I have picked Astralis, and I hope they do go deep. But now my other pick of this round, I think. Look, I said I wanted to go to the underdogs. So I didn't really like the favourites pool. I did just finish my beer, and I'm looking at Aurora. I've had a vision. You know, for me, this is, you know, English ale. It's my spice. You know, it allows me to see things.
Right.
Aurora, when it comes to events when there's some key teams missing, the field's a bit sketch, they make grand finals. They tend to make deep runs. They tend to be surprisingly effective when it comes to absolutely decimating weak teams. I think there's something to this team. Now, it's not that I think this team actually plays particularly good CS. It's not that I think this team are all of a sudden better than they were last year. They haven't fixed any of the glaring weaknesses. You know why, right? Magia and Faber are still right fucking there. That hasn't changed. But there still also is Wicardia and Xantares, and Soulfly. He's been shoved 6 feet out of position. Like, he's just not where he's supposed to be. And yet somehow still, you know, hits some shots. Still has big rounds, big maps, and big series. This team is still dangerous. And I'm kind of mad about that being true. But it is. And you've got to give him credit where it's due. Xantares, still a fantastic T opener. Still, you know, when people talk about, Flame Z could be opener of the year some year, maybe this year he started pretty well. It's like, over the course of the year, he's going to get lapped by Donk. He's going to get overtaken by Xantares. I don't care what the end of year poll for the HLTV Awards will say. He's not the second best opener in the world, basically ever. Xantares is still a beast. Wicardia is a playmaker. Divine. Like, as soon as he's done with this idea of this Turkish national team thing and he wants to go play for another team, he will find somewhere to play. This kid can play. So yeah, I'm still very impressed by the fragging on the roster. I still wish they took some Danish or Germanic influence into their sort of roster. You know, maybe a reverse, an anti-Frankfurt, let's say, and they brought maybe a German mind in to coach them or call them something to help them out, because they still don't know what the fuck they're doing. Like, as soon as they get into an opponent that has some modicum of prep, it's like, oh, this T side runs 3 fucking execs. Let's smash them apart. They just over the offseason changed those execs. That's why they can sometimes catch you off. So yeah, Aurora, it's going to be simple, it's going to be straightforward, but it will work to an annoying degree.
Yeah, I'm quite glad you took Aurora, if I'm being honest, because they felt too stupid to not take them, kind of thing. So I'm glad that choice is gone from my hands, because they just are like, I spoke about them recently in a comparison to 3D Max, in that I don't think Aurora should have stayed Turkish. I think it was a stupid decision. Like, make Major coach if you have to, if you really want him there. But I think they should have, you know, followed the likes of Furia and Astralis and done that and tried to push on, because the fragging, like, it just is there, man. Like, Xantares is so good. Wicardia is very good. And I think, you know, could and probably should win a major someday on some other team that's actually, you know, a serious one. But, like, I still don't think I still think Cluj will be like a flash in the pan, really. It wouldn't surprise me if they just didn't make the playoffs here, because they are still Aurora. They do still have Major, who's a lovely bloke. He's not a great mind for the game, though.
It's a pretty shit too. Like, yeah. Stop apologizing, yeah. Bro.
Yeah, just stop.
Shut the fuck
maybe
up.
Maybe just win instead, perhaps. But yeah, I don't know. Like, they are good. They just are good because they have the firepower. They have the firepower to justify still being international, where I just don't think 3D Max do. But I don't know. I feel like this is one that could disappoint you, if I'm being honest. I feel like,
well, look, they made Krakow playoffs, beating Falcons and MOUZ. They made PG on Cluj Napoca playoffs, beating, you know, Pain, Bait, and Astralis, which is far less impressive. But hell, all those fucking teams are here, and they've already beaten them to make playoffs of a different event. I am very confident. It's not just like it's just Cluj Napoca. It's Cluj
How
Napoca
long
and
is this going to
Krakow.
continue, man? That's the thing. There's still Aurora deep down.
Yeah, but it's one of those things like, I know what's coming. What are you going to... If you're not a team who can shoot a little bit, you just can't stop. And I mean, I say a little bit facetiously, a lot. You have to shoot a lot to keep up with them. And that's a tough thing to do.
I love that you picked this team just after we talked about, like, oh wow, Hooksy was so aggressive in that comms video. I guarantee if you listen to the comms of Aurora or Paravision, you know, those are two teams that I feel like are probably,
they look aesthetically like they're tilting so hard.
They're just, I guarantee you, they are far more aggressive than that clip that came out of Hooksy being like, can we just lock the fuck in? I think that's the problem that I have with the minus Major conversation or trying to shift him out. I don't see Zentares or Woxic reining in the boys when things are getting too heated. I see them as enablers. You know, this is, can I see your ID, sir? He's reaching kinds of escalation that I see out of Woxic and Zentares.
Those are the best videos, though. So we do want to see this. We want to see the Turkish scene throwing hands on stage.
I see, like, Major seems like the only, like, well emotionally intelligent person in the Turkish scene that I can tell will take an in-game leader role responsibly. And I think that's why I try to play a devil's advocate position of like, listen, I'm sure they've had conversations about it. I'm sure they've tried playing a more tactical game. But I feel like that is just not the way that works with these guys, with whether it's Woxic or Zentares. You know, I feel like Wakadia could take to it, Soulfly could take to it, but who are you getting that's going to replace Woxic and Zentares? You know, in my opinion, I actually wouldn't even start at Major. I would start probably at the head of the snake, the one that has the fang. Just because I feel like you need to find a breed that's a little more docile and agreeable. And I just don't think that exists. So, you know, Aurora do fight and hit hard, but I think there's cultural problems, I feel like, within this team. You know, I don't see them having a cohesion like a Heroic, for example, or a MOUZ. Even if they can choke in playoffs, they just don't have that camaraderie that I feel like exists in other successful teams.
So many things about that can be taken in so many different ways.
Yeah, I was going to say, for the safety of my career,
of cooperation.
I'm going to stay away from the conversation of culture just for safety purposes.
I'm not saying Turkish culture. I'm just saying team culture. I'd just like to clarify that.
Let's not put words in anyone's mouths.
No, only the one Turk with French nationality can keep the Turks in check. For some reason. Yumi, you said it, not us. We just made it into a joke.
Listen. Yeah, anyway, get him gone. Get a real IGL in. Just turn them into Turkish MIBR. MITR. It needs to exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see about that. MITR, we'll see about that. But hey, AN1MO, speaking a lot, but it's your pick now, so let's get into it. Who do you like?
Not much. Of the remaining teams, not fucking
You've got
much.
one favourite, one underdog. You can go underdog if you don't want to touch the favourites.
Oh, well, this is the thing. I'm concerned.
After your pick, it's two YouM3 picks, which are both underdogs. Then it's back to you.
Thing is, I feel like the show should end on a high. And if it ends on a favourite, it probably isn't ending on a high, but I don't want to lose my underdog pick. So, for the sake of patriotism, Monte.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go. Listen, I don't know what Monte are going to do this stage. I really don't. Honest to God, I have no clue. Part of me wants to say they make it to the playoffs in the 2-2 bracket. Part of me wants to say they go 0-3. But what I do know is I will be watching all 3 of their games, or all 5 of their games. I will have a lot of fun doing so. No, you can keep those fingers down, you fake French bellend. I don't know what it is about Monte, right? I don't think they have a ceiling much higher than they're currently at, but they've just appeared this year once again as like this plucky underdog that I actually just want to see succeed. And this time it's not because Waro2K is going to end up telling me that he's dreamed of beating Vitality in the Paris final, which is still the funniest thing anyone's ever said in an interview to me. I have dreamt it. All right, mate. Yes, sound. I believe you.
Don't trust the visions.
They've just got something quite likable about them, and I want to see them do well. So I'm gonna inevitably have jinxed it here, but I'm gonna speak it into the world and hope that I've done right by them, and they therefore do right by the guests of this show and help put you two into the dirt.
Right. Okay. Taking a bit of an aggressive approach towards it.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, they're a hard team to be upset with because, to be honest, if these guys just remained tier 2 and shit, nobody would have cared. So the fact that they're here is already a bit of a positive. I'm gonna maybe rag a little bit on Azu in this team because I don't know what
you can do that.
That's
not
don't
part of
know.
the patriotism.
No, but I've watched this guy throughout his entire career. You know, his first debut, Insomnia, got everybody talking. You know, he was like nobody really seen much of him. He was, made good decisions. UK land to be fair, but good aim, good positioning. Seemed like he was destined to have a good career. And then on every roster I've seen him on, it's just like I just see him. I don't see him grow to the environment that he's in. I'm sure he could stay at a tier 2 level and he'd be a serviceable enough player. But I've not seen him actually develop as a player properly. I still see him make silly mistakes and peak things he shouldn't and just over swing. And I guess I'm a little tired of it. Because this guy was touted to be, a star type player. I just never really lived up to that expectation, really. So I'm much more patriotic about the Gizme glow up because that is a guy that has genuinely improved and changed his view on the game and, a very outspoken personality. And then is now leading a team to top 16 at events. It's like, it's hard not to root for that when you've got pieces that are also kind of mercenaries and rejects from previous rosters. Like the fact that Bemis got thrown into the wilderness after starting on MOUZ at 17, and then went to ITB. He was okay on ITB. He wasn't good.
Good. Yeah.
But to see him and players like Rainwaker and Afro, who all have been kicked respectively, it's kind of cool. I think that's where I'll just leave it. It's just kind of cool to see this roster even do things.
Yeah, they're fun. They are fun. That's true. And yeah, Rainwaker, his story genuinely annoyed me. When he goes to Liquid, they're like, all right, cool. We don't speak Bulgarian, obviously, so speak English. Also, no get any of your spots. And anytime you could do something that vaguely resembles what you used to do, someone's stepping on your toes. You didn't play very well, did you? All right, fuck off back to Bulgaria then. That was a very, irritating series of GMing decisions from Liquid. And that tarnished Rainwaker's name because everyone was like, oh, he must just be trash. And gave him toxic,
yeah.
But they just said trash because they saw the ratings. And just dismissed him offhandedly. And I knew he could do more. I knew he could do better. I also knew he could shoot people in the head, which he has been doing on Monte in some pretty sick highlights. But that was something that people who just look at stat pages didn't understand. But he is basically the epitome of this team, where it's all of these players are in some way they've been dismissed. They've been brushed aside. I mean, I was an Afro fucking rejecter for a long time. And to be fair, he does play better on this team. I'm not sure what's changed, if it's him who's changed or if it's the environment that's changed in the right way.
Mate. It's Gizme.
It might be Gizme. It might be Gizme. The posh man himself, I don't understand his last name, to be honest. He's either South African or the poshest human alive. But he's got a British flag. So
by the second poshest human alive.
And I'm not English either, so here we are. It doesn't make sense to me exactly what he is, but he's figured something out. And it's working because Afro is playing better. He's less stupid, it seems, and he hits more shots. BMAS still aims in a really herky-jerky, I grip my fucking mouse too hard every time I shoot, like sort of way that it really works, but it shouldn't. Like we've seen some of those like little two-man sprays and things he's hit where it's like he looks really robotic and clean, but also at the same time awful, just because of the shake. But no, this is a roster where everyone's been rejected, denied, everyone's been a problem in some way, but it all just comes together in a really fun way. And yeah, the fact that a lot of the players are British, like which is a lot, 2 British players, at least by flag, still pending what the hell Gizmi is. They are rootable, likable. Like there's nothing in the history that says this should work, and yet they're still doing it. So yeah, no, they're a fun little roster. They are going to go 0-3 though. All of this to say they're going 0-3.
Yeah, no, probably.
Creamed.
There's a good chance of it, but listen, we'll enjoy it. We will enjoy it, and not for like the same reasons we'd enjoy Liquid going 0-3.
Yeah,
we'll enjoy it because it'll just be a good time.
The fact that they were here, the fact they could go 0-3,
yeah,
so nice.
Exactly. It's
UKCS
like cool
on
running.
the rise. When's Mezzi joining?
It's just cool runnings, but Counter-Strike. Like they've actually let the British guy do something. Like, God bless him. No, I don't know, man. Like I do think Gizmi could have a decent future based on this. But my final other point on Monte, and T, you might have some knowledge on this. Right. What is the lowest last alive percentage you've seen a player have?
The lowest?
In like a 3-month period, yeah. What's the lowest you've seen? Off the top of your head.
Off the top of my head, I don't have one because I don't check that number. I know who to check. Just let me go check someone. So I know he will be my answer if it ever was, something I saw. It'll be like this guy this year there. Let me see. Last alive percentage. Yeah, okay, I was right. That is incredibly low. 5.5% on Kensizor last year. Like
Right, okay. This year so far, Azulu, 4.5%. I have never seen that number be so low before.
What is he doing?
It's just really enjoyable.
Just trying to die.
He to be fair, he does hard entry at times.
I know. But at the same time, like that's insane. Like Kensizor was literally just a dude running at people. Like that was his job. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Damn, that is crazy.
I just thought that was just quite enjoyable, really. So yeah, there you go. There's my underdog pick.
Okay.
Love it. Yeah. Yumi, back-to-back picks. Let's go.
I think I'm beginning to understand.
All right, I know this
you may have picked Turkey, but I guess I'm going Brazil. I'm just gonna go with Pain.
Yep, there it is.
Wait, no, sorry, I don't actually mean Pain.
Oh wait, what?
I'm picking Legacy. I am picking Legacy.
That one chatter who's been so invested in Pain.
No, I was weighing it up in my head back and forth, and I was like, I got confused because like, there's something about redemption stories that just feels sweet sometimes. Art. Again, one of these pieces that cast aside. I will say, Maui is very good at framing people to be kicked from their jobs.
Yes.
Whether that's been art or it was less art. I think it was more NAVI, but kind of we lumped them into the same category. It was around the same period. And there was the whole Kai situation, whatever. Anyway, friend of the show. I do think art actually does bring something to this Legacy team that, as much as I thought the Lux move was strange to see, I don't know how good he is behind the scenes when expectations are set higher. When Legacy come away with trophy wins, you have to think that everyone's a little bit more hungry to get bigger trophies and have more opportunities. Most people would look outside and just go, Nissim, it's kind of bad. But on their tournament run that they had at the end of last year, man, Nissim is like sometimes the GOAT, surprisingly. And I think that has helped elevate them, but I do think there's this element of, you know, Art does provide a few more gimmicks than the old Legacy used to call. You know, Lux was very headstrong, map control focused. I feel like Art does still throw in, you know, these burst execs, these faster calls that are maybe detracting away from some of the map control stuff, but it catches opponents out, I think, to a higher degree. And I actually think just adds extra versatility to Legacy's playbook, which was lacking even in their tournament wins. So, you know, they have the muscle on this roster. You still have Dumao and Lado, and you know, if Nissim is somehow a god as well, you have a lot of firepower pieces and a fairly stable Sadson to revolve around, where having a bit more depth to your playbook, I think, has served to benefit Legacy. You know, part of, you know, they came away 3-0 from the online stage, and you know, I don't want to weigh too much on that, but it's starting to make sense. I'm starting to understand what the direction was, because the Lux move did seem a little peculiar at first.
Yeah. Sam, just where are you on this? Like, Art, were you a big fan at any point?
I mean, I think everyone was a big fan of Art when he first appeared. But I mean, after that, like, yeah, Nafany was the more egregious one, but Art had also ran his course. And listen, I don't keep up with Brazilian shitters. I'm not going to lie and pretend that I do. So I don't really know if Art deserved to be on a team with these higher expectations, or if it's just recycling another IGL. But I think that happened the week that you came on Overtime on Inferno, T, if I remember right. And I think we both said that Legacy just came into this year so flat. Like, they just felt so off that something must have happened in the background, behind the scenes somewhere. Like, it just seemed like they hadn't really practiced. They couldn't really be asked. And this team at the moment just look revitalized. And I think Art as well is someone who, not even for those tactical reasons you just mentioned, like, can actually just maybe help Dumao as well. He just once or twice throw himself around the corner. Dumao can then be a bit more tradey, maybe like he used to be a good few years ago now. And I think Legacy have had their highest high. I don't think they will get a higher high than they did last year at CAC.
CAC, yeah.
Was it CAC they won? Yeah, I don't think they'll even get close to that. But I think they'll be a bit more competitive again than it looked like they were going to be. So yeah, I don't hate it right now, but let's see if there's any real consistency to this.
Just as an aside, because you bring up, you know, Art could be a bit sacrificial. You know, Lux kind of was that. You know, as much as we wanted to look at Biguzera as being like an entry rifler, Kohler, same as Blitz, for example. Lux actually took a leaf out of Biguzera's book, I imagine partially via his tutelage or having worked with him. He did try and be a bit of a space taker creator as well, so it is kind of a like for like comparison. You know, Art can and has historically been that guy, but it does seem like they've gone for more experience. I don't know if it's necessarily just nepotist recycling of talent within the Brazilian scene, because that Fluxo team kind of plateaued for a while, and since Art has left, it's like I don't even know what the roster looks like anymore, and they've kind of downturned quite significantly. So I'm optimistic. You know, I don't like to just go, well, Nafany's shit and they're going to be bad forever, or same with Art. You know, I liked the project that he had with Kai and Zebi and Luke Halsey. They had some interesting bits to it. So yeah, I love a redemption story. I'll put it that way. Maybe that's just me being a romantic in that sense. Probably
a bit, but look, it's good. They've managed to make it stage 2 of Pro League, like, in pretty convincing fashion. Like, that's a great start. I'm not sure how much I buy into it working long term, but the thing is, with the whole, could they reach the highest highs of CAC? I'm repeating my points from Mongolz, but they apply. The heights of CAC, give me the right fucking event with the right fucking teams. Hell yeah, they could. Of course they could. It was a one-off run that coincided with, let's put it again, the thrillers they beat. They managed to lose to Liquid at the event they won. That's their high, reminder. They lost to Liquid at the event they won and beat 3D Max in a best-of-5 final. Like, come on. They could 100% repeat that with the talent on this roster.
3D Max are just the kingmakers. What can I say, really? they know how to
always
pick
need
them.
a French kingmaker in the scene, but be it a team or just MBK. But yeah. No, I'm a little excited, a little interested. I just hope I see a lot of art nutcase, like shithousery. And then eventually everyone else figures out his 3 gimmicks for the season. They fall off a bit, and we'll see what happens next. But yeah, Yumi, you've got another pick?
I'm just going to make this one quick. I'm picking Heroic, and it's largely vibes-based. It's a vibes-based economy at times. And I like the way that this Heroic team are kind of shaping up. They just seem like they've got a good atmosphere, to be quite honest. Was high on Crimson when he first made the move, just because, cool to see him have an opportunity past Checks Notes fucking OG, because that team is a bit of a dead end. Youngstar is AWPing on this roster, and he's not shit at it, actually. He's not as terrible as you would hope, given that it's a rifler taking over AWPing responsibilities. He's definitely puggy. He's like a pug AWPer, but in a way, that's kind of what I want. Like, I like that about AWPers that take risks, and those that can get away with it are what we define as star players. So, Youngstar, he's not quite there yet. He's still overswing. He definitely plays like a bit of an idiot sometimes, but he does have these great moments, and I just think the rest of the team is so stable. Like, I like xFloud as a bit of an X factor. Nilo and Susp. Nilo is a bit more consistent on the sort of output front, I would say, at least from the games that I've watched, at least. And Susp maybe lacks a bit of identity on this team, but he does his job. So it's largely vibes based. It's kind of like how Heroic are right now.
Yeah, they're pretty fun, and I do love the whole when I talk to people, I'm like, Youngstar's doing a better job on the AWP than a lot of actual teams AWPers, and they hit me with but he's so puggy. I'm like, so he's playing like an idiot, but actually hitting shots, and his team wins rounds. So great fucking job, everyone else being really strict and principled. It gained you nothing, absolutely fucking nothing. So why are you still doing it? Youngstar has just proven again that just playing the AWP like it's supposed to carry the game is more effective than thinking about the fucking economics of everything. Like, you're not a quant analyst, you're a CS player, win CS matches, and shooting people helps. And he tries like crazy to shoot people. He helped them win Draculan. He probably could have got an MVP at Draculan, actually. He dropped like a 121 rating, 0.8 KPR type event. And then this event so far, again, he's a 110, 0.73 KPR, like solid stats, and the matches that have mattered, he's shown up for. Like, he had a really strong overpass, was it? Yeah, overpass against Passion UA. He had a really strong series against Paravision, well, primarily a good Inferno. And he just does more with the AWP than a lot of other AWPers. Like, he's done more at this event with the AWP than you could argue a lot of guys with a much bigger rep, much bigger name. And you get a lot more credit. So yeah, I'm loving it. So some of my favorite young Swedes, plus Youngstar and an AWP. What's not to like? AN1MO, be negative.
No.
Do the thing.
Actually, no.
Yeah.
I agree. I liked Heroic when they built this roster. I'm not massively high on Alcaran, but I didn't think he was a problem. Alcaran, they do a funny with his visa. we get Youngster on the AWP, and he just feels like he's kind of just growing into it, but not in the way that's. I mean, listen, if he's there in a year doing the same thing, he might become bad because they might do the whole, think about the economics bullshit, throw some flashes bullshit. But right now, he's just growing into being this puggy AWPer, and it's fun as fuck. And his performances are improving. And it's actually at the point where I've said now in, multiple newsletters, deep dives, podcasts, at some point, Heroic, they're going to need to sign an AWPer because it looks like these visa issues aren't going away anytime soon. But maybe they don't. Honestly, maybe they don't. Maybe they can keep this going for an extended period and actually do well. And if they do, fair fucks, because I will enjoy every minute of it. Youngster's a nice kid. He's doing well. There's no need for me to be negative this time. I'm sorry to disappoint everyone.
That's okay. Because the numbers don't lie, really. I was curious. I was like, I want to say he's been a better AWPer than some Pius. I didn't have the numbers in my head to back me up. So I looked them up. And he does have a higher overall AWP KPR than some Pius. He has a higher... Because he doesn't AWP on T side at all, really. So the fact that he has a higher AWP KPR is purely on CT sides. And CT side, he's like one of the highest rated players at the event, let alone just out of the AWPers. So yeah, it's real. He has genuinely been like one of the 5 best AWPers at the event so far.
I did this the other day where I was like, now imagine that like FaZe bench Brokey, and then they want to like get someone else paying some of his wages. So they say to Heroic, do you want to loan Brokey? And then I was like, hang on, actually. Let me just look something up. I'm just going to look at rating. And Youngster was just like comfortably higher rated than Brokey. Like, you would get a real AWPer, but he'd probably just be worse in the role. Like
in fairness, Brokey didn't start as a real AWPer.
True.
True.
He was brought in as a rifler that had to then AWP. So
if FaZe agreed to pay both salaries, and Heroic loan him, like they do a swap loan essentially, would Heroic say yes at that point? Like, we don't have to pay anyone. Like, maybe we can have a conversation about FaZe trying that. Like, because they do need an upgrade, and he would be an upgrade at this point. Like, I don't
it's so mental that he would be an upgrade on Brokey. Like, and like even some pilots, like these are 2 of the better AWPers of the last however many years that are just both
5,
now just shit, man. Just shit.
Yeah, G2, we're still waiting on that. Recall that loan, recall that loan. Bring Klim all the way back. Like, everyone's desperate for it. I'm not. I think it's a terrible idea. He's too young, but everyone's desperate for it, and it can only get better, surely.
Yeah, I want to see it at this point.
Speaking of, AN1MO, you have one final pick to make, and it's a favourite. And, well, G2 are an option, so are FaZe, and so's NAVI, so pick your poison. I mean, AWPs galore. Who do you like?
What a bleak group of teams. Well, listen, I'm not picking FaZe. I'm not doing that.
I'm shocked.
I think you both could have guessed that. G2, I'm a bit past my substance abuse days, so I don't feel like smoking anything to pick them either. So I'll go NAVI. Right? NAVI are like, I said earlier about MOUZ and how as a 5, it just feels like they've kind of ran their course. I think NAVI are that to an even worse degree, in that they just don't go as far because they're just not as good as a team. And the harder part is with NAVI is I just don't know what you do to make them a better team. Like with the MOUZ one, there's a total number of one moment.
You said, what do I even do? I have an answer every time anyone says this.
Oh, go on.
Cut IMA for a real star rifler, for fuck's sake.
Okay, yeah, no, okay. There is that one, but like, who? Is it a guy from FUT?
Well, there was this guy who wasn't teamless and clearly had some great abilities, especially as like a star who plays off some people but can also dictate tempo and take some risks. He didn't speak great English, but also could be JL. But no, I was talking about Senzu. You could have had Senzu for IMA. I mean, I get it. He doesn't speak perfect English and can't communicate the master plan expertly, Blade, but he can shoot people without needing 3 flashbangs and a sacrificed teammate, so I think it was worth it.
But I feel like the communication thing, if we're still going to ride this bit that he just doesn't speak a lick of English. He just doesn't, yeah. Probably was too big of an issue there. But like, even then, man, like you get a real star in this NAVI team in place of IMA. Does that magically make Wonderful consistent and stop whiffing those easy shots?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like, does that magically give Makazi the other half of his brain so he can actually play a map that isn't a pug map?
Doesn't need it, because he does do that and then smashes all the best teams in the world in playoffs. So I'm happy. Just get him to playoffs. Like, if IMA's consistent and you play playoffs, Makaze is literally like the 3rd best rifler in the world. So just do that.
was an insane take.
Look at the numbers. I'm not insane. Look at the numbers. He's literally the third best rifle in the world in playoffs. He just never gets to play them.
Oh, okay. In playoffs, fine.
Yeah.
Fine. I didn't realise the in playoff caveat was there.
I just wish Wonderful didn't have just such a dog shit start to this year. Because
yeah, it's been terrible for the rep, hasn't it?
Listen, all of last year, like people were like, cut Wonderful, he's shit. And it's like he honestly wasn't that bad.
No.
Like he was actually good by a lot of AWPer standards. But now coming into this year, that vitriol is just like valid, actually.
Yeah.
Like it's like, wait,
honestly, 2026 Wonderful, you've slandered yourself. Like I can't even stand in the way of all the tomatoes.
I tried to play defense.
Take it.
I tried to play defense. I think we both did actually a little bit for this guy, but this year, actually kind of valid.
The thing is, though, he's still in that like fortunate spot where it's like, yeah, but who'd you get who's better, other than youngster? Obviously.
Well, the conversation we had with NAVI, the reason why it was so difficult, like last year especially, like we were like, he's like a 106, 107. He's kind of nerfed by the HLTV 3.0 AWP nerf. We all know this. He's actually not that bad. He's maybe, for me, he was 5th best AWPer of the year, and comfortably so and happily so. But then this year, yeah, he's been trash. So now we have to have that conversation because I was refusing to have it. Like there was no replacement. But now we have to talk about it. Like, so who does fit? In the Blade system, where you take the sort of shots he takes, the fights he takes, you have to be disciplined, you have to be good on a rifle because he's going to play the economy properly. Like there's no clear player for them just off the top, off rip, just like, yeah, just sign that guy. Because the Grixes, the Moldoys at the time, earlier last year, those kinds of younger AWPers are a bit loosey-goosey, a bit flashy, a bit ill-disciplined. So no, there wasn't a clear example. And there still isn't, now that it's an actual conversation.
Yeah. This is my point. This is why I don't see how you fix Navi. I just think they are probably resigned to what they are now until they inevitably fuck it all up and bench Alexi.
And then MOUZ can finally win all those majors.
Yeah, then MOUZ can finally become the dominant team.
Yeah, or whatever it is everyone else seems to see in the team that I don't, because I'm delighted with 4th every time. But yeah, do you know what? Let's close out the show. Let's do it. There's more pints to drink. There's more
you have an
food
underdog to pick, right?
I do. I have an underdog left.
3D Max are currently a map ahead in their game.
Yeah, and they're 11 to 10 on map 2 on Dust 2.
Yeah, they had a 9-3 half. They're kind of choking it a little bit, but
I'm just saying, by the way, if you had have left Liquid in, I would have picked them just for the fuck of it.
Well, technically 3D Max could be Liquid. It depends who wins. Like that's just that's a coin that flips, basically. But I'm going to go with, as an underdog, well, I'm between, I don't really want the winner of 3D Max Liquid, to be clear. And Bait still don't make sense. I'm still not sure what to think about them this year. So I've been so distracted by the AWPer like sort of situation that I genuinely have no clue what's going on. So I'm just going to take Pain. So that one chatter who seems to have left and gave up on us ever picking Pain. There you go. The one guy was just screeching about Pain. I'm picking Pain. And look, I was one of the people who believed in this roster earlier in the year. Like when they first pick up VSM Big Uzera, I talked of VSM and Furia rather. I talked about how that just kind of logically made sense for me. Like the two players they replaced were not Brazilian and also not very good. So why not take a risk on one very unknown property who's like very explosive, very dynamic, very effective in regional play, but still in his games. And then another guy who's very well known. Everyone's very familiar with him in Brazil, but who's currently having like the year of his career dropping like 130s. Like when you looked at the rating charts last year, it was like Donk, Zaiwu, VSM, and then like Kyosuke Omonasi. Like it was crazy, the stats he was putting up. And it just made sense to me. Just bring them in and give them a shot. Test them out. 3D Max are about to win, but that's whatever. Test them out and see what they can give you. And initially, it's a bit of a mixed start. But we've finally seen, I think, the best of it in terms of the way they played at Pro League Stage 1. Like, you know, Krakow wasn't great. Bounty wasn't great. Cluj, the toughest 0-3 you could have asked for almost in Cluj possible. But Still a no 3. But yeah, they finally put together some wins. They've chained together some good results. Furia's had some good maps, some good series. VSM's had some good maps and good series. They're still yet to put up extraordinary numbers, but they're also yet to get a single sort of like farmable event for these guys. Like they've just been playing pretty tough opponents non-stop. So I'm quietly excited for what this Pain team's going to show us. Because aside from playing, like Bet Boom Heroic at Bounty, there's not really been that many cakewalks. And yeah, this is a good chance for them. That's all I'm going to put. I'm not going to say I'm too well-versed with exactly how they're playing. I know VSM's the one who's taken some of the role sacrifices as far as like who's going to not be themselves, because both him and Pirio were doing sort of similar things in Brazil. It is VSM who's kind of moved off to more of a lurky, sort of less aggressive position, which made sense to me, and I hope that would be the case. But aside from that, I'm not too locked in exactly how they're playing. So let's just hope it manifests in more wins, because the fragging looks like it should be there. NQZ's playing pretty hot.
Yeah, I don't know what the Snow do on this team anymore.
Do we ever?
I don't like. I look at this team and like, before it was like hard anchor, playing support roles, didn't feel that comfortable. He's then forced to take like more aggressive starry type roles for a little bit, and to be honest, it actually looked serviceable. But now they've brought in Furia and VSM, who are more well suited to those positions anyway, and it's just kind of like, okay, we're back to Snow being a kind of player. Like, I know people want to be high on the kid because he's very young and he could have grown into it, and the whole meeting his heroes in Fallen and all this sort of stuff. It's like very cute, very endearing. But when it comes down to it, like what does he do? Like what does man even do properly on this team? And it's hard to quantify because he should be good in certain positions, and then I just see, I don't know, it just seems like he gets caught off a lot. Like when you have these player POVs, especially on stream, where you can see the cameras, it looks like he gets shocked when he gets peeked a lot. He's like, wait, I didn't foresee this.
The angle I was holding could have someone come out? No, it cannot be.
I wanted to root for him as well. Again, I focus on role players sometimes, and I do focus on the shit ones sometimes as well. And to be honest, Snow was never exceptional at those spots. So what are we doing? Basically, is my question with him.
Figuring out who next. Slowly in the background, they're figuring out who next. I think that's about it. And come on, Sam, tell me, is this the worst pick anyone's ever made? Is this shit, or is this brilliant?
Listen. You picked the best of a bad bunch. You really did. I mean, bait, like, come on.
It's in the name.
As you said, no one knows what's going on right now. 3D Max, I know you're that way inclined.
Yeah.
Regrettably so. But French, like, you can't be having that. Pain, they're just the best of a bad bunch, but you have made a mistake. You have made a mistake, unfortunately. And you should have gone for 3D Max. Just to avoid this mistake, purely on the basis because just by mentioning their name, it means you've put faith in Pain, and the moment you put faith in Pain, Pain will disappoint you. It's the only thing they can do. They reach a major semi-final, you think, fuck me, Pain have turned the corner. They're gonna be there. They're gonna be challenging Furia properly. They might even overtake them. Dog shit. This is Pain. This is what Pain do. So Pain, unfortunately, thanks to KingT, you will now be going 0-3 in stage 2. Because expectation has been placed in you, and therefore you must become dog shit once more. It's just the way it is.
The world collectively needs to underestimate them for their entire run until they win a major.
if that happens...
In an 0-2 game, they're playing Monte, so there's definitely no way they go 0-3. So I'll take that dub.
Yeah, you wait until Gizmy shits down their throat, mate.
Yeah. Gizmy puts them in the Rat Pack.
Yeah, we'll see about that. Pain, not destined for an O2 matchup anyway. I think they're good for a 1-1 type of event, and then after that, it's all fine. You made a 1-1, no one's going to really hate you. Going 0-3, though, that will be a bit of a travesty. But yeah, those are the picks. We usually would give us some time for these final remaining teams, but we've slandered them casually off to the side enough for it to be okay. I guess G2, there's a chance they do something technically, but we'll have to see it to believe it. But yeah.
3D Max off Masuda.
Yeah.
Let's just move on.
He just dumpstered Liquid because that's what he does. He smashes tier 2 teams.
Yeah, I guess so.
But yeah, thank you for tuning in. Yeah, we'll see if these picks work out. And yeah, leave a comment to us your thoughts. Sub for more content. Remember to become a member if you want to support the channel. And that's all for this one.